number of questions that any crop farmer seeks to answer in his attempt to achieve sustainable agriculture. What are the soil and water needs for my crops? What crop will I plant and what cropping system will I utilize? How do I protect my crop from being destroyed by diseases, pests, and weeds? And once my crop is ready, how do I manage the harvest? This module will teach you about all the factors mentioned above as shown in the chart on your screen. Practicing sustainable agriculture as concerns crop farming involves a mix of many elements. One of the key elements is soil and water management. We will begin this section by looking at practical examples of effective soil management practices. Soil fertility determines crop production. Thus, it is important for a farmer to identify the soil characteristics. These include: number 1, soil reaction. The degree of acidity and alkalinity expressed as a pH. Number 2, soil texture. This includes sand, silt, clay, and colloidal materials. Number 3, soil structure. The manner in which individual mineral particles are arranged. A key element in the use of soil is nutrient management, which determines the health of the soil. So, what are the practical steps we can take to improve nutrient management? Some of these steps include: 1, the use of a green cover. A green cover can be used to retain nitrogen where necessary. 2, maintain an appropriate pH. Lime can be used for optimum nutrient supply. 3, apply fertilizers and manures. This is done evenly with a good spreader and well away from the water sources. 4, irrigate carefully to support crop yield and using a shading system that takes account of the weather. Effective soil nutrient management can be hampered by soil erosion, as the topsoil, the most fertile part of the soil, is washed away. Now, what are some practical ways we can utilize to control soil erosion? Some of these ways include: 1, contour farming. This involves plowing, planting, and weeding along the contours. Number 2, agroforestry. This involves the planting of trees and crops in the same farm. Trees conserve the soil by cushioning the impact of the raindrops on the soil. Number 3, cut-off drains. These are dug across to intercept surface runoff and carry it safely to an outlet such as a canal or a stream. Number 4, retention ditches. These are ditches dug along the contour lines. They catch and retain the incoming runoff and hold it until it seeps into the ground. Number 5, terraces. These can also be utilized. Types of terraces include Fanya-Jew terraces. These are made by digging a trench along the contours and throwing the soil uphill to form an embankment. Fanya-Chini is like Fanya-Jew, except that the soil is put on the lower side of the trench. The resulting embankment can be used to grow fodder. Bench terraces are levels or nearly level steps constructed on the contour and separated by an embankment. Stone terraces. These are usually used in areas with steep slopes. The terraces are made from stones collected from the land. At this point in time, we will do an exercise that will enable us to put into practice what we have learned about soil fertility management. Hi, Francis.
Hello, Judy.
Now, today we are going to do an exercise that will enable us to put into practice what we've learned about soil fertility management.
Yes.
And the materials we will need are 3 glasses.
We have the 3 glasses here.
3 soil samples.
We have it here.
Water.
We have the water.
And something to stir with.
And here it is.
Now, collect samples of soil from 3 different fields. One from the valley.
This is from the valley.
And the other one from the top of a hill.
This is from the top of a hill.
And the third sample from the side of a slope.
This is from the side of a slope.
Good. Now, just by looking at and touching, try and guess what the soil is made up of. Now, Francis, next,
Yes,
fill
Judy?
a third of the glasses with each of the soil samples collected.
Okay, here is the soil from the valley. A third of it. A third. I guess that's a third, huh? This is a third.
Yeah, this is a third, yeah.
And this is from the top of a hill. I fill it up with a third. I guess that's a third.
Yeah, we are good to go.
And this is from the side of a slope. A third of it. I think that's a third.
Good, Francis. Now, next, fill the rest of the glass with water.
All right. This is the water in the first glass. Fill it completely.
Be careful.
And this is the water from the other glass. There. And this is for the last glass. I guess that's all.
Yeah, that's good enough. Now,
Fine.
thank you. Now, let us stir the mixture very well.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
okay.
Yes. Now, Francis,
Yeah.
next, we let this mixture rest for 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And then we stir it very well again. You stir the mixture from top to bottom. You mix the mixture very well from all the 3 samples.
Okay, that's after 5 minutes.
Yes, after 5 minutes.
All right.
And now, here are some questions for you to discuss in light of the exercise we've just concluded. The questions will appear on your screen. Question number 1. Was the soil made up of the components you guessed? If not, what were the differences? Question number 2. Which of the soils would you prefer to cultivate and why? Water is a necessity for healthy plant growth. So how can we improve our management of this commodity? what are some water harvesting techniques and water harvesting systems we can use? Water harvesting techniques and water harvesting systems can be grouped into two. 1. Systems in which the bunds follow the contour lines are called contour systems. And systems in which the bunds do not follow the contour lines are called freestanding systems. We will begin by learning about contour systems. The simplest form of a contour water harvesting system is stone bunds along the contour line. They slow down the speed of runoff water. A living barrier such as grass or other vegetative material is planted immediately above the stone lines. A trash line barrier is one that utilizes crop residues like millet and sorghum stalks. This is also used to reinforce the stone lines. At this point in time, we will do a series of exercises as concerns water management, the making of stone bunds, and the making of zai pits. Francis,
Yes, Judy.
today you're going to show us how to make a stone bund.
First, you have to design a ridge,
Okay.
just like this one. And about 25 centimeters from down. And about 30 to 40 centimeters width
Okay.
is a recommended measurement. After that, you place these big stones in this shallow trench.
Here we are, another big stone.
These big stones prevent the undermining by runoffs.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. After then you can place the small stones.
Okay, here we are.
Yes.
So these small stones act as a filter to prevent the run of water.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And as concerning the planting procedure, Judy, the stone bunds are used to rehabilitate the infertile soil and degraded land.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So, in order to achieve that objective, we combine the stone bunds with the zai pits.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Francis.
Welcome.
Next, we are going to see how to make a zai pit from the beginning to the end. Next, we are going to take a step-by-step procedure to see how to make a zai pit from the beginning to the end. Now, Mr.
Yes,
Francis,
Judy. Yeah,
you're going to show us how to make a zai pit from the beginning to the end.
exactly. First, you dig a square hole, about 30 to 60 centimeters deep,
Okay?
and 60 by 60 wide.
Uh-huh.
And then you take up this composted organic matter
Uh-huh.
and you put it into the pit.
I can see that.
You can see that.
Uh-huh.
So now we are going to add on the top soil
Uh-huh.
here. And then you saturate it enough with water.
Okay.
When it's so well saturated, you will find that it takes several days to dry.
Whereas the surrounding soil is already dry.
Exactly.
And if I may ask, Francis, why do you like zai pits?
Zai pits are affordable, and at the same time, it's a good way of harvesting rainwater.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Francis.
Thank you too.
Indeed, zai pits have been proven to fulfill the following functions, namely soil and water conservation and erosion control for encrusted soils. The advantages of zai pits are: 1. It captures rain and surface or runoff water. 2. Protects the seeds and organic matter against being washed away. 3. Concentrates the nutrients and water availability at the beginning of the rainy season. 4. This also increases the yield. 5. Reactivates biological activities in the soil. The Zypit is an example of low-cost rainwater harvesting techniques. Other low-cost rainwater harvesting techniques include 1. Potholing. This involves cultivating crops in individual holes designed specifically to enhance soil fertility while protecting topsoil from erosion. 2. Half-moon microcatchments. These are small semicircular earthbands. The half-moon catch water flowing down a slope. Crops such as sorghum, millet, and cowpeas can be planted in the lower portions of the half-moon. 3. Negary microcatchments. These are diamond-shaped basins surrounded by small earthbands within an infiltration pit in the lowest corner of each. Runoff is collected from within the basins and stored in the infiltration pit. 4. Trapezoidal bands. They are used to enclose large areas up to 1 hectare and to impound larger quantities of runoff which is harvested from an external or long slope catchment. Crops are planted within the enclosed area. At this point in time, we will do an exercise that will enable us put into practice what we have learned on soil and water conservation. The materials you will need are a large sheet of paper and colored pens. Number 1. In groups of 4 to 6 persons, draw a simple map of the area on a large sheet of paper. Include roads, paths, hills, valleys, rivers, streams, and any other physical feature that you can recognize. Mark out the areas that are cultivated, grazed, and forested. 2. Mark on the map locations of the farm and note down any specific characteristics of the individual fields. Draw arrows according to how water flows in the village and on individual fields when it is raining, and mark the water collecting points. 3. Relate the soil and water conditions of the field to their location in the village. And beginning with cropping systems, the different types of cropping systems are: 1. Shifting cultivation. Land is cleared, cultivated for between 3 to 4 years, and then allowed to revert to bush for 5 to 10 years before being opened up again. 2. Continuous cultivation. Land is cultivated on a continuous basis, either by rotation, monoculture, or mixed cropping. 3. Monocropping. This is the practice of growing one crop to maturity on a piece of land. In using this practice, farmers, however, risk total crop failure in the event of natural hazards and an imbalance in nutrient removal from the soil. 4. Mixed cropping. This may involve planting short-term annuals through long-term annuals, or biennials, or following one crop with another immediately before harvesting the former crop. What are some of the advantages of mixed cropping? First, it increases crop productivity or yield. This is because there is a better use of resources, that is land, labor, time, water, and nutrients. Secondly, improved use of light and soil resources. In a maize and beans intercrop, improved light use efficiency is attributed to different plant heights. Thirdly, reduction in risk of total crop failure. This is associated with natural hazards such as pests and diseases. The mechanism involved include camouflage and mechanical barriers, modifying the crop background, masking, or dilution. Fourthly, socio-economic. Farmers with limited land resources intercrop to minimize risks. Approximately 98 and 83% of the production of cowpeas and beans are estimated to come from intercrops with other food crops. In the drive to practice sustainable agriculture, pests, diseases, and weeds are the major elements that destroy crops. So what are some practices that we can begin so as to mitigate and reduce damage to our crops? The breeding, selection, and use of resistant plants can help to protect crops against pests. However, more and more farmers are switching to the use of integrated pest management, which involves integrating the use of all pest control methods in a complementary way. At this point in time, we will do an exercise on pest and disease management. Now, think of a typical selection of about 10 to 15 crops in small farms in your area. Consider staple crops, fruits, vegetables, legumes, and crops with high market value. Some practices that minimize weed interference to crops may be classified as cultural methods. These are 1. Pre-planting tillage. Weeds are suppressed by incorporating them into the soil. This minimizes early competition, especially from perennial weeds. 2. Post-planting tillage. This minimizes weed interference to crops. Hand pulling is practical, efficient, suitable for annual weeds, but not ideal for perennial weeds because of their vegetative reproductive structure. Mulching. This involves covering the soil with crop residues to suppress undesirable weeds. 4 tons of dry residues are recommended to cover 1 hectare. Burning and flame cultivation. Fire, especially at the end of cropping season, can be used to destroy weeds and their seeds. Flooding. Flooding is the use of excess standing water to induce an anaerobic condition to kill the weeds. Water is supplied to a depth of at least 10 centimeters and be stagnant for a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks. This practice is common in lowland rice production. The use of biological weed management practices involves the suppressing of weeds by direct use of one or several organisms. Herbicides are also highly utilized in weed management. At this point in time, we will do an exercise that will enable us put into practice what we have learned about weed management. The details of the exercise will appear on your screen. Crop management is affected by the environmental quality. And in tackling environmental quality, there is the issue of climate change. So how do we ensure that we adapt to or mitigate the effects of climate change? Adapting the appropriate crop management practices can help to adapt to climate change. Some of these practices include 1. Shifting planting dates. Shifting the planting dates can help to avoid crop losses. 2. Staggered planting or succession planting. This involves planting crops at different times to cope with periodic uncertain drought conditions and uncertainty in the onset of the rains. 3. Introduction of drought-tolerant crop cultivars. Introducing new, better adapting crop types can provide increased resistance to heat shock and drought. Efforts have been made in developing tolerant varieties of dryland crops like sorghum, millet, early maturing maize, pigeon peas, and chickpea. 4. Crop diversification. Growing a wide range of crop type and varieties on the same farm reduces the risk of crop failure, provides alternative means of income generation, and stabilizes production under high climate variability. Next, we take a look at some of the mitigation techniques. We, however, want to take time and focus on learning about mitigation techniques that can be easily adapted, especially in the African continent. We will begin with fire management. Fire blackens the land surface. Mitigation involves reducing the frequency or extent of fires through more effective fire suppressions. Greenhouses. These tend to provide controlled conditions, thus assuring farmers good returns for their investments. Under optimal conditions, fruits and vegetables in greenhouses can produce up to 10 times more than rain-fed conditions. The shelf life of agricultural products varies from a few days for some fruits and vegetables through a couple of months for most tubers and bulbs to over a year for dried food grains or other seeds. Irrespective of the product, numerous factors along the value chain pose as a threat to shelf life. Internal factors come about because agricultural products are still alive and their life possesses respiration which produces carbon dioxide and heat continues after the harvest. External factors include 1. Mechanical injury. Fresh fruits and vegetables are particularly susceptible to cuts and bruises. 2. Fungi and bacteria. After harvesting, the natural defense mechanisms of agricultural products rapidly decline and they easily get infected by bacteria and fungi. 3. Insects, rodents, and other animals. Stored grain losses due to rodents are estimated at between 10 and 20%. 4. Diseases. Fungi are the most common microorganisms which affect the grains. Initially, they appear as spore and then spread into individual grains. Storage losses can be prevented by 1. Harvesting at maturity to prevent loss of quality and chances of infestation by pests and diseases or theft. 2. Leaving the products in the field. After harvesting, it is possible and desirable in some cases, but it is always risky. During transportation and storage, some products are easily bruised or injured. This must be prevented by careful harvesting and proper packaging. Transporting to the market under optimal conditions. Generally, the lower the temperature, the longer the storability. Products that respire should be stored in well-ventilated places. The following practices can also be adapted so as to reduce post-harvest loss. 1. Choice of variety. Choosing seeds based on their pest and disease-resistant properties. 2. Choosing harvest time. A timely harvest can ensure that the pests are not carried into the store along the pulses. 3. Drying. Heat used for drying the products will also help to kill the larvae and chase away adult insect pests. 4. Store locations. Side stores should be made away from any potential sources of infestation and away from growing crops. Characteristics of stores. Keep the temperature and humidity as low as possible through controlled ventilation. 6. Storage hygiene. Keep the store and its surroundings clean. The whole building should be well aired and, if possible, fumigated. 7. Inspecting the store. Periodic inspections, that is weekly to fortnightly, and removal of any infested produce is essential. And with that, we have come to the end of our module on sustainable agriculture. Practicing sustainable agriculture as concerns crop farming involves a mix of many elements. As a farmer, one needs to have practical knowledge on good soil and water management, while at the same time have the right information on effective cropping systems. And as the crops mature, a farmer needs to be aware of the control factors that can help us reduce negative effects of pests, weeds, and diseases. At the same time, sustainable agriculture involves effective crop management, which means adapting climate change. And finally, as the crop matures, as farmers, we need to have practical knowledge on how to store the crop and manage the harvest in an efficient and effective manner. We hope that this lesson will help you to improve on your crop production and management. The next module will focus on livestock production and management. Thank you for watching, and we wish you much success in your farming practice.